here. So if you have, I feel like neither of you will require it. Like maybe, I don't know, Dale, maybe you have questions about High Forge. I'm not sure, but Haruf probably doesn't. So what we can do is if you do have questions, you can ask them. But then Aust, if there is like, since this is recorded, if there are like things that you want to go over that we can just post for the community that might not be obvious, that you're like questions that you're getting, like a lot of questions that I've asked you through other people, you can just like be like, you can just talk about it and then we can post that for everyone if that works.
To be clear, also, I've been a pain in his ass. I've been asking him all kinds of questions and breaking things.
Okay. I mean, that's good. So maybe like if you can publicly, if you can say like, if you can go over some of those things, then we can share it with the community.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you some of the questions that we asked were, you know, I told Bill also that we stayed before I could even like review the collection. I was stuck on the page trying to figure out the whitelist launch date and also the public launch date. And one of the questions that I ended up asking was, can I move forward with this and just change the public launch date at a later time? And the answer ended up being yes. As it turned out, I was very close to having the right answer when I did it, but I was off by 3 hours, so we had to fix it. But that for me was, for this particular thing, was kind of a stumbling block because I really wanted to review my collection and like get it ready to launch, even though I didn't need to push the launch button. And yeah, you can't actually review and tweak all of your images until you get past when is it going to launch. So that was one thing that we asked recently, or that I asked recently. We've solved an issue that was, I gave them images that were too big. And I think that he was just asking me a question about, what Twitter's maximum size is. And I think that it would be nice, for them in the future, to basically only allow image sizing that goes up to what Twitter allows, because it's something that allows you to easily share with your community and kind of build engagement that way. And so, like my public recommendation to Aust would probably be that they have just a check on the image sizing that you're trying to upload, and if it goes over whatever Twitter generally would allow, then maybe just give them an error basically that says you need to resize your stuff for this. I guess there could be certain times when, if you're doing like fine art pieces or something like that, you would want to have like very large images, but that's just like, I guess, my feedback. Dale, if you have anything, you're welcome to pitch in. I'm going to go back and kind of see if there was anything else that he and I have been talking about recently.
Yeah, and just for clarity too, Haruf's images are 8,000 by 8,000 pixels, and I think the biggest one was like 700 kilobytes. So
yeah, so they're pretty simple like drawings, like PNGs. So they do compress pretty well. I mean, like they're, we're not talking about like 10 megs or whatever, but the sheer girth of these whales was enough to break most of the sizes or the sites.
It's weird that like with the sizing thing, because obviously if you make it unlimited, then you can just have heaps of people putting heaps large artworks on them and just like load up everything. But it's also, you don't want to limit the creator too, of saying you can only make it like 1,000 by 1,000 or whatever. So I think like there should be like a suggested maybe size for like the biggest, and like then maybe the average size of just, but it's hard, like, because then you'd have to educate people a bit about what type of artwork they're doing. But if you just say, oh, most PFP NFTs, like, fun fact, most PFP NFTs are like max 2,000 by 2,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, just to suggest that, because a lot of people won't know, like, if you're not an artist, you won't know resolution, but you might be getting it off some guy that's maybe one of his first ever digital artworks, and they're still figuring it all out. But yeah, it's that weird case where I think maybe just a suggestion would be better for most people. I don't know. Depends on really the issue.
Sure.
But yeah. Just like, is the issue just the like file size storage for you guys or whatever, or what? How?
I think that it was the fact that 8,000 by 8,000 is just was consuming the memory. So not necessarily the file size, but just so many pixels.
Oh, so you
Because
could probably
when we ran into the same issue with your animated layers.
yeah, because you could like even force thumbnails or something like XRP sometimes does, where you can upload a thumbnail that will go across as the main thing, like so then you because otherwise people need to load it and then it loads into the cache or whatever. I don't fully know how it all works, but then yeah, if you were saying okay, your file's going to be much bigger than the normal file, you sort of have to upload a thumbnail, and like you could even have a little mini creator in there if you really wanted to get fancy, where it was just like, oh, I noticed this is a GIF. Like, do you want us to just compress that down real good for you? And then you could like check it, stuff like that. But yeah, that could be a good workaround, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, good idea. And Synapse, Haroof's images were 8,000 by 8,000, which are now working. So 4,000 by 3,000 should be fine.
Sweet.
Um,
There we go. Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, Super Synapse. So we are just doing a Q&A. So if you have questions, Aust is answering them, and he's also going through some of the stuff that people aren't here that have been asking him, so that we can have it on record.
I have a fun one for you, Aust. Would it
All right.
be within reason to be able to put a custom contract if the custom contract is created on the Launchpad? So ARC72, but with goodies added to it.
So are you guys trying to create the smart contract beforehand or after you create it through HiveForge?
Either would work. But there's some interactivity that I'd like to have with my collection, and I'm working on getting that done. But one of the hurdles that I know we're going to run into is either launching off of HiveForge or launching on HiveForge, right?
Right. So just so you know, the way HiveForge is designed is we keep the update permissions with the HiveForge account. That way, if bugs pop up or whatever, we can fix a smart contract ourselves. But we built it so that after you mint out, we're going to give those permissions away back to the creator. So the creator is actually the one. So you log in with your wallet address and you sign the transactions to launch the project, and it creates a smart contract. Your account that you're connected to is actually the creator of the smart contract. So temporarily, like while you're minting out, HiveForge has update access to the smart contract, but we're going to make it so that we revoke or replace that with your creator address. So maybe that will work for you, where you can go actually launch your collection, and then after people mint out, we just go through that process. Or are you trying to do interactions like in the middle of minting, I guess, is a question.
No, it's afterwards. And like to kind of explain the idea, I have a collection of 500 NFTs, all right, that are all photos of polarized photography. And I want to have 50 NFTs, which are what are in the competition. And every time someone sells the NFT, the seller gets a dice roll to get one of the polarized photography NFTs, or a higher chance, which would be a fail, and they get a fail NFT, if that makes sense. So it really encourages people to not hold on to the NFT because they're dummy NFTs, and instead to trade them to get the real collection, which is, I think, a great opportunity for especially onboarding new people, because I'm hoping the dummy NFTs don't go for a huge amount, so they could potentially swap them a few times, get some NFTs for less than $1 million via,
Right. Let me send you a link real quick. Hold on. I assume your dev, well, if you're building a new smart contract, if you update So we have the smart contract that's from HighForge. If you have a dev building a new one and you replace it, I assume they're going to have to know how the boxes are implemented and things.
So Shelly's the guy I'm talking with.
Oh,
And
Shelly. Okay.
funny enough, like he told me he was looking for a project to help out with. So I was like, well, I got an idea. So we're doing that, but I don't know any of the smart contract side, especially with AVM. I can kind of fiddle with EVM a little bit, but yeah. So I didn't know if it's upgradable. Really, all that needs to happen is the dummy NFT needs to call the other NFT collection for a mint, right? So
Right.
that's really all that collection on HighForge would have.
I mean, you don't even need to call the other collection. You could bake it into the same one, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just implementation details. But yeah, Shelly, I just sent you a link, but he has this link as well. So I think you'd be all set with that.
Sweet. Yep.
But let's just plan on then after you mint out, just passing the update. I mean, we don't even pass the update. If you wanted to, we could give that update permission to a wallet that Shelly owns, which would probably make it easier for him to do it.
Yeah, I need to touch base with him. It's still some moving parts, and ultimately, it's not an absolute confirmation that it's easier possible to do this before March 1st. But I would love and he too would love to be into the open source code end of it, and I'd love to be in the trading end of it.
Yep. Yeah, totally doable.
I had another question. And please don't let me interrupt this too much. Is there any way or any good resources you know of to connect a Discord bot to trading data that's happening on chain? Like, does the NFT indexer do any of that? So I have a friend who does a lot of Discord bots. In EVM, it's very easy to do. But is there any way we can have a bot that tells people when a collection is listed or when it is sold or bought or whatever?
I would ask Shelly about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Sorry. But
yeah, I didn't know if there's any APIs or anything that are out there yet that we could latch onto.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can I interrupt for a second? Because I'm pretty sure Fruity City is working on one at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Fruity City? Is that his name?
Foodie.
Foodie?
Yeah, Foodie. I can put it as a message.
Sweet.
I also asked him to work on an affirmation bot for the dork holders. I want every time there's something going on in the chat, I want the bot to tell them that they're big and girthy and that they're doing a good job or whatever, So high on my list. Two things that I would kind of look forward to is, especially related to HighForge, would be the ability to tack on to an existing contract, to add to an existing collection, because what seems like it's shaping up with the listings on NFT Navigator and everything else like that, they're reading the existing smart contract that's created for each collection, and for the collection like that we're talking about for the games, we're making 50. I'd love to be able to add to that, especially as we go towards mainnet. And so, if that becomes possible for HighForge, where you can say, are you starting a new collection or adding to an existing one? I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know what the tech is behind that, so I'm just giving you a non-technical request. And the other thing that is super minor, but because of the limitations of Kinesis and stuff like that, it wouldn't, if it's simple enough, it wouldn't hurt to have something to reclaim your whitelist tokens and then opt out of the asset. It's so minor but mildly annoying that my Kinesis wallet now has two whitelist mentions that I will no longer ever use, and I've not yet found the layman's version of sending those back to the creator wallet and then opting out, which is fairly easy on Algorand, but just doesn't quite exist on VOI yet that I can tell.
Okay, good idea. And as far as launching into a collection, technically it shouldn't be too hard. We just need to build like the UI flow to make that happen. So it's on our to-do list.
Okay, yeah, because I think that you know, for the most part, if you wanted to add to a collection on Algorand, you just mint more, and then the way that the NFT Explorer and Rand and whoever else was, you know, able to check on them, they just checked the creator wallet, and that was it. You actually had to specify if something was not in the collection, because everything would just get listed. The way it is, you know, here obviously we've got. I now have 2 collections. They're operating as 2 collections, which is wonderful. But yeah, being able to add to one of them without it, you know, appearing as a whole new collection, I think is a problem for maybe a few months from now or something.
Yeah.
Well, happy days. I think there should be a good VOI games. Should be good.
I'm super stoked. I'm really excited, especially to try and onboard people outside of VOI. That's really what I'm shooting for.
Yeah, we heard that that Super Synapse is doing kind of a photography collection. What is Rachel working on?
We're doing a pixel treehouse collection.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Cool.
Yeah.
What?
I had a couple of.
Oh no, go ahead.
I had a couple of questions. I don't know really how it works with ARC72, but is it possible to edit the metadata the way you can with an ARC69 NFT on Algo?
So the way it works with ARC72 is the metadata is loaded into JSON and then uploaded. So if you, in the smart contract specifically that we built for HighForge, the creator has access to call the smart contract to upload or to specify a new URL. So you could upload a new JSON and point to that new JSON. And that's essentially the same thing as updating the metadata. Not quite as simple as ARC69, where you just send a transaction to the blockchain, but that would be the process.
Is that something that HighForge is also going to like facilitate?
Okay. So you upload a JSON and then you send contract that points to a new one.
Yeah, and we haven't had any plans to build out like updating a metadata, but in the smart contract, we do give you the option as a creator to at least swap it out.
Okay. Is there if I Google that first to get rid of like the Wikipedia level questions, if I'm still having problems, can I message someone and ask for a how to?
Sure. You can always message me in Discord.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And my other question was about a holder bot. I know that there was initially meant to be some people working on it and then maybe not working on it anymore. What do you use for dorks, Haruf? You've got a holder role in the main VOI Discord, right?
Yeah, we did a little bit of begging basically, and they were able to accommodate us. I think if I'm being honest, that's likely to go away so that they don't have a ton of different NFT, you know, roles. But I just basically requested it because we wanted to be able to send out a bunch of VOI to people weekly, and that seemed like the kind of the easiest way to do it with the Algo League spot.
How do you know who has them? Is that manually done? You assign the role?
Yeah, it was all manually assigned, and it's only removed if we see the item sell on the marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. And I mean, I think that if it goes away in the VOI Discord, which I assume that it will one day, I'll probably spin up the exact same thing on another Discord that I control, and you know, just encourage people to join there if they want to get rewards of some kind.
Proof, I know you've done it. I'm curious to hear how you went through your whitelist process, and then if anybody else has done it, I'd love to hear some of the concepts you're thinking about, because I think that's something that a number of creators have come to me and said, what's going on out there in the market? How are people doing the 25 that go out to their community?
Yeah, I mean, ours was fairly straightforward. I thought about it for a while and wanted to do something kind of nice for the artist. I'm not the artist of the project. That's been Narabet, who's the creator of Dragon Embryo on Algorand. One of the problems that the Dragon Embryo faced was very similar to almost every other project out there, where we expected to see growth in the ecosystem and instead saw pullback after the market kind of pulled back. And so we have a collection called Dragon Embryo Generations, which had too many pieces in it for the community. So I incentivized them by telling them that if they turned in 7 pieces from that collection, which had a floor of like 8 or 15 algo or something like that, that they would have a whitelist for free. And that allowed us to bring in a lot of our existing folks, but also a few new ones that hadn't played on VOI who were in the Algorand ecosystem. And then I just instead of like going the route that the Pyrenees did, sorry, where they just they minted all 25 and then sent them out to people. I sent out the whitelist tokens because I wanted folks to have the opportunity to kind of do the RNG of finding out what they were going to get. So we did a maximum 2 for the whitelist. We had some people who wanted more than that, but I thought that maximum 2 was good because then it would get a chance to kind of reach the broader community. And so I sent out 1 to 2 whitelists to each person who signed up, and we capped out at 25 last night in a Twitter space. So they're all accounted for now. The one other thing that I would mention that we did this time that was a little different was I told the community we were going to reserve the 0-1 for like a fundraising kind of thing in the future, because I like to give items back to the folks, and if I can, I know it's working as intended, Aust. I'm just going to say the one kind of gripe about minting like as you go is that without a doubt the first person who gets there is going to get the 0-1, which people still consider to be like of value, and so we to kind of stem that off and to not be, especially since I'm the one handing out whitelist tokens, and not being accused of being playing favorite or whatever with who was going to get them. I minted that first one for the project, and we're going to deal with that kind of later.
Yeah, that's interesting. HighForge is built so that I'm not sure you guys might probably seen some mints on Algorand where you have to sign transactions and submit them to the server, and then the server submits it to the blockchain on your behalf. HighForge doesn't do that. HighForge lets you submit directly to the blockchain. So if everyone is sitting there watching the countdown timer and you have 10 people there, like,
yeah,
if the connection to my server went down, for example, you could still have a chance at, hopefully, then that's kind of the hope, right? If everyone's there and they all hit submit,
right,
they're all going through their different nodes, like which one's going to get it first? Well, I guess it depends on which relay node and which node is proposing blocks and whatnot. So
yeah, I think it's completely fair for public launches, when you have a time that you've told people and you've got like basically a countdown clock when you go to the page. It's a bit different for a forced whitelist, because it's going to depend upon like who's sitting at their chair and who I submit the whitelist transactions to first, and Kinesis cares about my computer security, so they won't let me store my password in there. So I can't just like have like a bunch of transactions up there and like try to hit them all at the same time to get to people's wallets. So without a doubt, there's going to be like a front runner based on my efforts, and like I said, we did this. It's probably very, very minor because it's really only if people care about the first one. But I just wanted to let you know that we did it this way because I wanted to alleviate that kind of symptom.
Yeah, it makes sense. But what stopped you from setting like the whitelist date further in the future? Like, I mean, you could set the whitelist for like Friday, distribute all the tokens today, and tell everybody race for it on Friday, right?
No, you're completely right. Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're trying to meet, because we're building this tool for you guys, right?
No.
You're not meeting your guys' needs.
You're right. I should have thought of that. I think it was the result of the thing I talked about earlier, where I wasn't sure when the actual NFT games were supposed to start, and I'd been sitting like watching this collection for like a week and a half and ready to go. And then when I saw Pyrenees and a couple of other ones like already starting to like distro, I was like I gotta like get this out. I wanted to do it, So you're right. That's a better way to approach it, and I probably should have done that.
Fair enough. Sorry, maybe we need more documentation around this kind of stuff.
I mean, what you're describing is like it is very common sense. I should have thought about it. I mean, but it is also like it wouldn't hurt to have like some page of documentation where it's like, so you're launching a project. Here's a couple things you want to think about. Do you want to set your whitelist, a day after you push the launch button, so that you have time to get your tokens out to people. I mean, I think that that's like a reasonable thing for, and a very simple thing to put on the website. But, ultimately, people are going to do what they're going to do. And, there's going to be people like me who are just like, who feel like they're running around with their head cut off, just trying to get stuff accomplished, so it's not the end of the world. It would be nice to kind of build like a small FAQ, like we talked about earlier, like what size should my images be, and what's a good way to check if there's improper interactions between layers or something like that. I think that's pretty common sense, but I think that if you're building a brand new collection, you've never done it before, like that might be something that's a little daunting for people,
Right.
Yeah, I've always thought that having like a little tutorial pack or something would be really cool. Like, I was thinking about that for Algorand, where if you made like saying if you just want to make a 50-piece collection, like here's the exact way that you can make it, like in terms of promotion, uploading, like issues you might come across, trying to keep it as like boring and simple as possible, because there's always going to be people that extend it in like how you were doing things with the sizing and stuff and all that, but just trying to get it as like if you just follow this along, you won't have any issues. But yeah, it'd be hard to do to get all the little things, but I don't know, it could just be cool as like a baseline of if you're a new artist, how to make the simplest sort of stuff. Oh, and yeah, super signups. WebP was the format I had to use for HighForge for animated images.
How did you go about creating a WebP? I've never used that format before.
So I made my video in MP4, which is like just the standard, and then there's an online converter. There's a bunch of them. I just had to Google around and find one because I'd never converted to WebP either, like until I had to do this. And so yeah, there was just a converter online somewhere. I can try and find the link that I use. Hang on.
Yeah, and I can figure it out possibly too. If you have a link, that's awesome. Did you notice any weird artifacting or any issues with using?
No, not as like. So I've done GIFs as well, and GIFs tend to be worse, but a WebP seemed to be all right. Like
Okay.
you know, like my videos aren't heaps high res. Oh, I think they're like 1,000 by 1,000, so they are kind of, but because of I use some anti-aliasing and stuff too, it sort of blurs it nicely, and I haven't really noticed any like artifacts. It's usually when I compress a lot with GIFs that I start seeing it, but it also depends on how the GIF looks, because of how GIFs work, where it's it'll only like add the new pixels that change. So if you have like a lot of static pixels that won't change color in the GIF, then the file size will stay heaps small. Like if you only had like just one line wiggling a little bit, the GIF will like keep a really small file size. But I don't know if that works the same with WebP. But even so, like MP4s tend to be much lower file size than GIFs, because GIFs are saving them as images, and yeah, like there's like, but yeah, I didn't see any artifacting. Sorry, I went on a tangent then.
Yeah, and just real quick, Aust, while I have you here, is that a limitation of HighForge, or is that a limitation of bigger than that? Because like OpenSea allows MP4s and GIFs, etc. But
Right.
that may be different.
Yeah, we've just landed on WebPs. WebPs have been around for a couple of years, and they're basically a better version of GIFs. So I guess we're just being a little opinionated by saying, hey, if you're going to make something, make it using better standards and protocols, right?
Sweet, works for me.
With that, would you ever have like a converter on the site, like to say like, hey, these are MP4s, we're going to convert them to WebPs, just because I know that would be a really big issue for people. Like I don't want to have to use a converter to be able to do it, but I do also know that like that's more power and stuff that maybe you guys need to source. I don't know, but
I'd also say I would be happy to pay like $10 or whatever if that service was in-house.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised you guys haven't like used or heard of WebP before, but
I've heard of it. Like I was familiar with it, just to
Oh.
say. But yeah, it's not the common file that I think a lot of people hear about. Like GIFs, everybody knows that word, but I see WebP just because it's like the internet, and you save files and stuff, and they come out like that. But yeah.
I don't know about other people, but like I don't think my drawing program even has the option of saving an animation as a WebP. So it requires an extra step. So as an artist, it's not the usual thing that you would make.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a big thing. The tools aren't like, they don't direct into WebP. I've always found like it's usually a website that will create a WebP file, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So
Yes.
like Rachel, in your tools, there's no way to like say like export as WebP even?
I mean, I'm not a professional. I use Procreate, but no, I think it has MP4 and animated PNGs and GIFs, and maybe one more that I can't remember. But no, it doesn't have WebP, so it would require a converter, which is not a problem. But in terms of ease of onboarding artists, it's just not a standard for me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes. So for video, like Premiere in the Adobe Suite does not support WebP, but Photoshop does. So, sometimes putting video into a Photoshop file can be a little bit tricky. I mean, it's doable, but it's not desirable.
Okay, that's good feedback. Thanks.
But I mean, if there's a way to get Adobe to just integrate it, I'd be happy to use it more.
Right.
Are there any more questions, Super Snaps, Rachel, or anything else Aust that you think people should know about?
Yeah, one thing, we have a section on HighForge. If you go to the Explore projects page, we're sorting all the NFT games projects right on top.
Mhm.
And the way we're sorting that is based off of if you have the public launch date set correctly. So if you don't have it set correctly, that's fine. And we can help you run a little like a command that will open up the wallet, you can sign a transaction, update it. But just so if anyone is like, hey, I'm trying to be in that section, that's what the criteria is. So
Okay.
We learned that. And by the way, if you wanted to add one thing to that message you sent me, Chrome requires, it'll tell you, it requires you to write like allow scripts or something. I forget what it was.
Allow pasting.
Yeah, allow pasting. Yeah, something like that. So like if you had that in your instructions, like I would have typed that first, then I would have pasted in. There would have been no friction. It would have been done. As it was, because I'm never in that creator aspect of Chrome. I'm like looking all around for like where the entry prompt is going to be, you know, or where it moved to, or and stuff like that. So it took me a little bit of time, but very simple.
oh, interesting. Yeah, thanks.
I assume that response is also like you non-technical idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably would have checked that a long time ago. It's so long ago that I can't remember. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. I'm just playing.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, I feel like I hope this was useful for everyone. So it'll be posted, and yeah. Is there anything else? Thank you so much, Aust, for taking the time both now and also this afternoon. Just sit through 2-hour-long sessions. Yeah.
I'll make one quick note, and I posted this in the VOI Games channel, just for awareness. I've created a VOI Games collective, especially for artists who want to collaborate with their community together as a group, and for trading and keep some of that conversation out of the VOI Discord. So just to let y'all know, if you want to join that, or if you want to just be aware of it so you can see what's going on, that's out there as an option for creators to, participate together in their communities. Currently, we have 7 projects.
You post the link in the chat?
I can. But it's also in the NFT Games chat. Give me a second here. Create a link. All right, there we go.
Cheers.
But yeah, it is open to anyone. So if you run across anyone who's struggling with the community, feel free to send them my way. I'll give them an artist role and a dedicated channel.
That's great.
I'll make sure to add that into the video description as well, Synapse.
Sweet.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great evening. And Cody, you can stop recording, and if you can post this, please, in the NFT Games channel, that would be awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
See you guys later.